Now it's time to start designing our homepage, beginning with the Hero section. Before we jump into building, I'll quickly save a couple of elements we created earlier so we can reuse them here. This will save us time and keep everything consistent. In the global footer, I'll save the green subtitle text by clicking on the 3 dots and choosing Save to Library. I'll give it a simple name so I can recognize it later. I'll do the same with our styled button. Having these items in the library means we don't need to recreate them from scratch every time. We can just drop them into the layout when we need them. Back on the homepage, I'll enable the visual builder by clicking Edit with Divi. I'll remove the placeholder sections I had before so that we start fresh with a clean, empty canvas. Let's build the structure first. I'll add a row with a 2-column layout. In the left column, I'll go to the Library tab and add the green subtitle we just saved. Once it's loaded, I'll update the text and align it to the left. Below that, I'll add a text module for our main headline, make it an H1, and place my title text inside. Underneath, I'll add another text module for the supporting description. This is where you can briefly explain what your business or website is about. Finally, I'll add the Saved button from the library. Place it under the text and align it left as well. Now we have our call to action ready to go. In the right column, I'll add an image module. For this build, I'll use the image of the woman with the green shadow effect, which gives a modern and professional look. This creates a nice 2-column layout with text and a call to action on the left and a strong visual on the right. Next, let's style the background of this hero section. I'll open the section settings and switch to the gradient background. I'll set the gradient direction to 90 degrees and add 4 color stops. The first stop will be black, the second black, the third dark green, and the fourth black again. Then I'll adjust the positions so the green sits right behind the image. This creates a subtle gradient effect that draws attention to the right-hand side of the hero section. Once that's done, I'll set the top and bottom padding of the section to 0 to keep things compact. Now let's refine the spacing. In the row settings, I'll change the layout style to block, which helps with alignment. Then in the first column, I'll add 100 pixels of top padding to push the content down and give it some breathing space. For the headline text, I'll open the Design tab and set the color to white so it stands out against the dark background. We already set up global font sizes earlier, but since this is the main hero title, I want it a little larger. I'll update the clamp values to 44 pixels, 5 viewport width, and 80 pixels. That means the title will scale with the screen size, but can grow as large as 80 pixels. For spacing, I'll set the bottom margin to 0 and the bottom padding to 25 pixels. For the supporting text below, I'll set the color to a medium gray. Make the font size 20 pixels and increase the line height to 1.6 for easier reading. For spacing, I'll keep the bottom margin at 0 and increase the bottom padding to 35 pixels, just to give it a little more separation from the button. Let's save and preview how it looks on the front end. On desktop, it looks bold and professional. Text on the left, a strong image on the right, and a nice gradient background tying everything together. Now let's check tablet and mobile. If you're using Chrome, you can press F12 to quickly toggle through different device sizes. As I shrink the screen, it looks pretty good, but a few things need adjustment. The gradient background doesn't scale well on smaller screens. The top padding is a little too much on mobile, and the supporting text looks a bit oversized. We'll fix these step by step. First, the background. On tablet and mobile views, I'll simplify the gradient so it's just black. This keeps the design clean and avoids awkward color overlaps behind the image. Next, the spacing. The 100 pixels of top padding we added in the first column works well on desktop, but it's too much for mobile, so I'll switch to mobile view and reduce it to 50 pixels. That brings the text closer to the top without feeling cramped. Finally, the text sizes. On smaller desktops, I'll reduce the supporting text size from 20 pixels down to 18 pixels. On widescreen view, I'll leave it at 20 pixels. And on ultrawide, it also stays at 20 pixels. For tablet, I'll keep it at 18 pixels. And for mobile, I'll scale it down further to 16 pixels so it stays comfortable to read on small screens. Let's save and preview again. Now everything looks balanced across all devices. The desktop layout is strong and spacious, while tablet and mobile feel clean, readable, and well-proportioned. This is the process I follow every time. I build for desktop first, then go through tablet and mobile views to make small adjustments until everything feels right. It only takes a few minutes, but it makes a huge difference in how professional the site looks. Before we wrap up, let's add a bit of movement to the image to make the hero section feel more dynamic. I'll open the image module and go to the animation settings. I'll select the slide animation, set the direction to left, adjust the duration to 500 milliseconds, and lower the intensity to 10%. This gives us a subtle sliding effect that feels smooth and professional without being too distracting. And with that, our hero section is complete. We now have a bold headline, supporting text, a call to action, and a strong image with a nice animated entrance. It looks great across desktop, tablet, and mobile, and sets the tone for the rest of the homepage. The next section we're going to build is the services section. This one has a simple header with an icon and some text at the top, followed by 3 service boxes, each with an image, a title, some text, and a button. Let's start by adding a new section with a single column row. Inside this row, I'll add an image module and replace the placeholder with the icon from our media library. I'll center the image so it sits nicely at the top. Underneath the image, I'll add a text module and make it our section title. I'll format this as an H2 heading and align it to the center. I'll duplicate the text module we used earlier in the header, drag it under this H2, and align it to the center as well. In the sizing options, I'll set its width to 70% and center the module. For tablets and mobiles, I'll make the width 100%. I'll also remove the extra padding we added earlier, so the spacing feels balanced here. Now let's move on to the service boxes. I'll add a new row and choose a 3-column layout. In the first column, I'll place an image module and select our service image. Below that, I'll add a text module, set the content to the service title, and make it an H3 heading. Underneath, I'll add another text module with some descriptive text. And finally, I'll duplicate one of the buttons we created earlier in the header and drag it under the text. Now we can begin styling the service box. To make the layout tighter, I'll remove extra space between the elements by setting the vertical gap of the column to 0. For the image, I'll add a border radius of 10 pixels and a bottom padding of 30 pixels. For the body text, I'll set the color to a softer gray instead of full black and add 20 pixels of bottom padding. For the service title, I'll give it a bottom padding of 10 pixels. Next, let's refine the button. I'll set the text size to 15 pixels and adjust the spacing so it's a little smaller. 7 pixels of padding on the top and bottom, and 15 pixels left and right. Now let's style the column itself so it looks like a card. I'll open the column settings, add 20 pixels of padding all around, and give it a border with a width of 2 pixels set to black with a border radius of 10 pixels. For extra polish, I'll add a hover effect. Under box shadow, I'll choose the first preset, set the shadow blur strength to 35 pixels, and start with a transparency of 0. Then, in hover view, I'll increase the transparency to 15%. This way, the shadow only appears when you hover over the column, giving it a nice interactive feel. Since the first column is complete, I'll delete the other 2 columns and duplicate the finished one twice, so we have 3 identical boxes. To adjust the spacing between the 3 boxes, I'll open the row settings and reduce the horizontal gap slightly to 3.5. That keeps the layout compact without feeling cramped. Then I'll update the images for the second and third columns. You can also replace the text and button labels with your own content, such as Read More or Learn More. Finally, let's add some animation. I'll open the row settings, go to Animation, and choose Slide from the top direction. I'll set the duration to 500 milliseconds, lower the intensity to 10%, and set the starting opacity to 100%. This creates a smooth entrance effect when the section loads. Let's save and preview it on the front end. Now we can see the Services section with its hover shadow effects and responsive design. One last detail. If you notice a small title attribute pop up when hovering over the images, that's coming from the alt text. You can remove it by going into the Image settings, opening the Advanced tab, and clearing the Attributes field. I'll do that for all 3 images. And that's it. We now have a clean, professional services section with smooth hover effects, a clear layout, and responsive adjustments that look great across all devices. Let's move on to the next section of our homepage. Here's a quick look at what we're going to create. To begin, I'll duplicate the first section we built earlier and drag it below our services section. I'll remove the existing row inside it, and then add a new row with a 1/3 to 2/3 column layout. In the larger right-hand column, I'll bring in some of the text elements we already styled. I'll duplicate our green subtitle text and drag it into this column. Then I'll duplicate one of our H2 titles and place it below the subtitle. I'll align the text to the left and change the color to white. Even though this is technically an H2, I'll increase its size to match the scale of our H1 title, so it feels more prominent. Below the title, I'll duplicate the gray body text from earlier and drag it under the heading. This gives us a consistent look with the rest of the site. Now, let's add the image. In the smaller left-hand column, I'll place an image module and select the portrait of the lady with the black background from the media library. To align the text and image more precisely, I'll open the row settings, go into Layout, and set the alignment to center. This brings everything into balance. For the next step, I'll switch to wireframe view so the structure is easier to see. Here, I'll add a new row inside the larger right-hand column, choosing a single column layout. Then I'll drag the text modules into this new row. Back in the Visual Builder, I'll open this inner row's settings and adjust the width to 70%. In the column settings of this row, I'll also set the vertical gap to 0 pixels, so everything stacks more tightly. For the title text module, I'll add 25 pixels of bottom padding to create some breathing room before the body text. Next, I'll add a bit of spacing to the first column where the image sits. In the column settings, I'll add 50 pixels of top padding so the image aligns better with the text. Now, let's add a list of key features. Inside the larger column, I'll create another row, this time with a 2-column structure. In the first column of this new row, I'll add a blurb module. You can see the structure more clearly in wireframe view. We have a section, a row, and inside that, a nested row in the second column. In the blurb module, I'll change the title to one of our service highlights and add supporting text in the body field. I'll also select a check icon. Under Design, I'll set the icon placement to the left and increase the icon width to 34 pixels. For the title, I'll set the font weight to bold, the text color to white, and the size to 30 pixels. For the body text, I'll use white with 65% opacity and set the size to 16 pixels. Finally, I'll disable the icon animation for a cleaner look. Once this blurb is styled, I'll duplicate it and place the copy in the second column. Let's save and preview it on the front end. Now we can see the section with the image, headline, supporting text, and blurbs. Let's switch to responsive view. Not bad, just a few tweaks needed, adjusting text sizes and adding spacing for tablet and mobile. Once that's done, the layout should feel much cleaner across devices. Time to make it responsive. First, I'll adjust the width of our inner row. At the moment, it's set to 70% across all screen sizes, but that's too narrow for tablets and mobile. I'll reset it so it's full width by default, then switch to wide view and set it back to 70%. I'll do the same for ultra-wide view. For tablet, I'll also add 50 pixels of top and bottom padding so the content has enough breathing room. Next, I'll fine-tune the text sizes. Our content text is currently set to 18 pixels, but for smaller screens, I want it slightly smaller. On widescreen view, I'll reset the value so it stays at 18 pixels. I'll check ultra-wide too, and that's fine. For tablet, I'll reduce the size to 16 pixels. This makes the text easier to read on smaller devices. Finally, let's animate the image. I'll open the image settings, go to Animation, and choose Slide. For the direction, I'll select right, lower the intensity to 10%, and set the opacity to 100%. This gives the image a subtle motion effect as it enters the screen. Let's save and refresh the front end. And there it is. The section is complete, with a smooth animation on the image and text that looks balanced across all devices. Switching to responsive view, we can see the adjustments working well on tablet and mobile. The next section we're going to create is this image carousel. You'll notice that the centered image is shown in color, while the others are in gray. As you scroll through the carousel, the active image changes to color. This carousel is built with a brand new module in Divi 5. It might seem a little tricky at first, but don't worry. I'll walk you through it step by step. The first thing we need to do is create the slides for the carousel. To do that, go to your WordPress dashboard and look for Projects. Click on Add New Project. You can give the project any title, since the title won't actually show in the carousel. Now scroll down to Featured Image and upload or select the image you want to use as a slide. I've already prepared 4 images for this demo, so I'll select the first one. To keep things organized, I'll also create a project category for the carousel slides and add this project to that category. Repeat this process for the other 3 images so that we have a total of 4 projects ready to use in the carousel. Once the slides are created, it's time to build the carousel itself. Go back to your page and add a new section with a 1-column layout. To keep the style consistent, I'll duplicate the row with our title and subtitle from an earlier section and place it here. I don't need the icon in this case, so I'll remove it. For some breathing space, I'll open the section settings and add 100 pixels of top padding. Now, in the empty row below, I'll add the new Group Carousel module. This is where the magic happens. Inside the carousel's Content tab, you'll see a group. Open those settings, and under Loop, enable Loop Element. Then, under Post Type, remove the default Post and switch it to Projects. This tells the carousel to pull in the projects we just created as slides. Next, click the plus icon inside the group and add an image module. In that module, open the Dynamic Content options and choose Loop Featured Image. This makes the carousel display the featured images we set earlier for each project. Now, let's adjust the carousel settings. Open the Group Carousel settings and go into Carousel Settings. Here, I'll enable center mode so the middle image is highlighted. Under Slides to Show, I'll set this to 4 for desktop. On mobile, 4 images in a row is too much, so I'll switch to Mobile View and change it to just 1 slide. Next, I'll clean up the spacing. Open the group settings and under spacing, add 5 pixels of left and right padding. Then, open the row settings and under sizing, set the width to 100% and the max width to 100% as well. Back in the carousel settings, I'll style the navigation arrows by changing their color to white so they stand out against the background. Finally, let's add the color effect. Under Groups, go to Filters and set the saturation to 0. This makes all the images black and white. Then, under Active Group, set the saturation to 101%. This ensures the active, centered image appears in full color while the others remain gray. Let's save and check the front end. And there it is, our image carousel, with 4 slides across on desktop, the center one in color, and a clean mobile layout showing 1 slide at a time. The next section we're going to build is the Testimonial section. I'll start by adding a new row with a 3/4 to 1/4 column layout. Above that row, I'll duplicate the row we used earlier with the H2 title and content and drag it into this section. I'll update the title text so it fits our testimonial design. In the first column of our new row, I'll add an icon module and choose the quote left icon. I'll size the icon to 50 pixels and align it to the left so it acts as a visual marker for the testimonial. Next, I'll add a text module for the testimonial quote itself. I'll set it as an H3 title, give it a font size of 42 pixels. Underneath, I'll place another text module for the testimonial body text. I'll set the color to gray, the font size to 21 pixels, and adjust the line height to 1.6 so it's easy to read. For the author's details, I'll add one more text module with the name and job title. I'll style this with a bold font weight, a gray text color, and a font size of 18 pixels. In the right column, I'll insert an image module and upload a testimonial image. To soften it slightly, I'll apply a border radius of 10 pixels. Now let's fine-tune the layout. I'll open the row settings and under Layout, set the horizontal gap to 0 so the text and image sit closer together. I'll also center the alignment so everything lines up nicely. For the first column, I'll reduce the spacing by setting the vertical gap to 20. Then, under Spacing, I'll add 50 pixels of left and right padding and a top margin of -40 pixels. This pushes the text up slightly so it feels better balanced with the image. Looking at it now, I think a 2/3 to 1/3 column structure works better, so I'll change the row layout to that. Let's test responsiveness. Switching to tablet view, I'll open the first column and remove the side padding by setting left and right padding to 0. Then I'll adjust the font sizes. For the testimonial quote, I'll bring it down to 32 pixels. And for the body text, I'll set it to 18 pixels. On mobile view, everything stacks nicely, so no further changes are needed. Now let's add the second part of our testimonial section. I'll start by adding a new row with a 2-column structure. In the first column, I'll duplicate the icon we used earlier and place it at the top. Below that, I'll add a new text module, type in a testimonial heading, and style it as an H3 title. Next, I'll create a star rating. To do this, I'll add a group module, and inside it, I'll place an icon module. I'll choose the star icon, set the color to orange, and size it at 24 pixels. Since we need 5 stars, I'll switch to wireframe view, duplicate the icon 4 times, and then return to the Visual Builder. With the group selected, I'll adjust the layout by setting the direction to row and reducing the horizontal gap to 2 pixels. Now the 5 stars sit side by side. Under the stars, I'll add another text module for the testimonial content itself. I'll set the text color to dark gray, the font size to 16 pixels, and the line height to 1.8 for better readability. Now let's build the author details. I'll add a new group module, and inside it, place an image module for the author's photo. Then, switching briefly to wireframe view, I'll add another group module directly under the image. Inside this second group, I'll place two text modules, one for the author's name and one for the job title. Switching back to the visual builder, we now have an author photo with their name and title displayed below. Let's adjust the layout. First, open the main group that holds the author's image and text. Set the layout direction to row, and under sizing, set the alignment to left. Then, adjust the horizontal gap to 20 pixels so there's a bit of space between the photo and the text. Open the group with the two text modules for the name and job title. Set the vertical gap to 0 so the text sits neatly together without extra spacing. Go back to the main group once more and change the alignment to center. Now, the text aligns nicely with the image. With the structure in place, let's style the column. Open the column settings and add a box shadow. I'll use the first preset, then adjust the shadow strength to 35 pixels and lower the transparency to 10%, so it looks subtle. Under border, I'll set the corner radius to 12 pixels. For spacing, I'll add 35 pixels of padding at the top and bottom, and 50 pixels on the left and right. Under layout, I'll also set the vertical gap to 20 pixels for consistent spacing inside the column. To refine the look, I'll add a 10-pixel bottom margin to the testimonial text, to the stars, and also to the top icon. This ensures all elements are evenly spaced. Now, let's check responsiveness. On tablet view, I'll adjust the column spacing by setting the left and right padding to 35 pixels. On mobile view, everything already looks good, so no changes are needed. Finally, we don't actually need the second column here, so I'll remove it. Then simply duplicate the first column. That gives us two testimonial cards side by side, and you can just replace the content in the second one with another testimonial. And that's it for our testimonial section. We now have two clean styled cards with text, stars, an image, and author details. The next section we'll create is a simple but striking design with a parallax background. You'll see a subtitle, a big title, and a button. And as we scroll, the background moves with that parallax effect. Let's get started. Add a new section with a single column row. Inside it, place a text module for the main title. Make this an H2 heading. And in the Design tab, set the alignment to center. For the font size, I'll use our global H1 variable, but I actually want this to be even larger. To do that, click on the clamp values, detach it from the variable, and increase the maximum value from 60 pixels to 80 pixels. Above the title, duplicate one of our green subtitle texts and drag it into place. Below the title, add a button module from our saved library. Now let's fine-tune the spacing. Open the row, then the column settings, and set the vertical gap to 0 pixels. For the title text, open its settings and add 20 pixels of bottom padding. Also, set the H2 color to white. Next, let's add the parallax background itself. Open the section settings, go to the Background tab, and choose the image with an overlay. Enable the parallax effect and set the method to CSS for a smooth scroll. To make this a full screen section, go to the Design tab, open Sizing, and set the height to 100 VH. Then, under Layout, set the Justify Content to Center. Now our content sits right in the middle of the screen. And that's it for this parallax section. When I preview it, the background moves beautifully as I scroll, while the text and button remain in place. Thanks to our clamp values, the fonts scale perfectly for tablets and mobiles without extra adjustments. In this next section, we're going to build this grid-style blog layout. This one's pretty cool because we'll be using Divi's Loop Builder, which gives us full control over how our blog posts look. But before we start designing the layout, we first need to create a few blog posts. Go to your WordPress dashboard and under Posts, click Add New. Give your post a title and make sure Use Default Editor is enabled. We're not using the Divi Builder for this part. The layout for the post itself will be created later inside the Theme Builder using Divi. Now add some dummy content in the body area, just to fill the post for now. Then, set a featured image. You can use one of the blog post images I've provided. Next, create 3 categories and assign each post to one of those categories. Once that's done, create 2 more posts, so you have a total of 3 posts, each with its own featured image and category. Now that we have our posts ready, we can start building the blog layout itself. Now that our posts are ready, let's start building the blog layout. I'll begin by adding a new section and choosing a 1-column layout. Next, I'll duplicate one of the rows we already created earlier, the one with the subtitle, title, and short text, and place it inside this section. Let me quickly check the wireframe view. Ah, I thought so. The duplicated row ended up nested inside another one. I'll just drag it out so it sits directly inside the section. Perfect. Before we build the loop layout, I want to show you something. There are actually different ways to create a blog in Divi. Divi includes a built-in blog module. If I add one here and switch the layout to grid, you can see it automatically displays a grid-style blog. You can style the elements in this module, things like titles, text, and images, but the options are a bit limited. It's a great option if you want something quick and simple, but we're going to take it one step further and build a custom blog grid using the Loop Builder, which gives us much more control over the layout and design. Let's start by opening the row settings, then open the column settings. Here, I'll enable Loop Element, and under Posts per Page, I'll set it to 3, so we only display 3 posts. You'll notice that we now have 3 columns, each with a plus icon. These represent our loop structure. Anything we add inside one of these will automatically repeat for every post. I'll add an image module to one of the columns. Then, click on the dynamic content icon and choose Loop Featured Image. Now you'll see that each post displays its own featured image. Next, let's add the category name. Add a text module, then in the dynamic content field, choose Loop Post Terms. Categories is already pre-selected, so you can just save that. Then add another module, a heading module, and choose Loop Post Title from the dynamic content options. In the Design tab, under Heading Text, set this to H3. Below that, add a text module for the post excerpt. Under Dynamic Content, choose Loop Excerpt and set the number of words to 10. Now let's add a small row inside the loop for the post date and icon. Add a new row and choose a 2-column layout. In the first column, add a text module. And under Dynamic Content, choose Publish Date. That's the date of the post. In the second column, add an icon module. Choose an arrow icon. Set the color to black, the size to 30 pixels, and the alignment to right. Now let's style everything so it looks clean and consistent. Open the first text module, the category label, and set the font weight to bold, text style to uppercase, and add 2 pixels of letter spacing. For the post title, open the heading settings and set the font weight to bold and the font size to 28 pixels. Next, open the small inner row with the date and arrow icon. In the Design tab, set a top border of 1 pixel with a black color. And add 10 pixels of top and bottom padding for spacing. Now let's work on the main column styling. Open the column settings and under Layout, set the vertical gap to 20 pixels. Under Box Shadow, choose the first preset. Set the shadow strength to 35 pixels and lower the transparency to 10%. Then, add a border radius of 12 pixels for softer corners. I want to tighten up the layout a bit more, so I'll switch to wireframe view and add a group module. Now, I'll drag the 2 text modules, the heading and the inner row with the date and icon inside this group, leaving only the image outside. Open the group module, add 20 pixels of left and right padding, and set the vertical gap to 20 pixels. This helps align everything neatly under the image. Let's slightly reduce the title size to 26 pixels, just to balance it better. Now let's check how it looks on tablet. The layout works nicely, but I'll reduce the title size to 22 pixels here. Then open the row settings and under Layout, adjust the horizontal gap to 3.5. That makes the spacing between the columns a bit tighter. I will reduce the title a bit more to 20 pixels. I'll also make the excerpt text smaller, 13 pixels, with a line height of 1.6, and I'll set the publish date to 13 pixels as well. Back in desktop view, let's set the row alignment to center and change the row width to 100% instead of the default 95%. That gives us a little more breathing room. Now let's switch to mobile view. Right now, it's still displaying in 3 columns, which we don't want. To fix this, go to the row layout settings and set the layout wrapping to wrap. Perfect. Now it stacks into a single column for mobile. I notice that the publish date is not showing for me, so let me assign that again. For the inner row with the date and icon, set the layout wrapping to no wrap, so those 2 elements stay side by side. Everything is looking great now. Before we finish, let's add links to our posts. Open the arrow icon, click the dynamic content icon in the link field, and choose Loop Link. This will link the icon to its specific post. You can make any element a loop link, so I'll also link the image to the post the same way. And there it is, our custom blog grid built entirely with the Divi Loop Builder. We've got the featured image, category, title, excerpt, date, and link, all neatly displayed and fully responsive. Now it is time to build the last section of our homepage. We're going to build a full-width row with 2 columns. On the left, a large background image, and on the right, an About Us section with some text and a call to action. Let's start by adding a new section and choosing a 2-column layout. Then open the row settings and under sizing, set both the width and max width to 100% so the row spans the full screen. In the second column, add a group module. Now duplicate one of our green subtitles and drag it into this group. Change the alignment to left. Next, duplicate one of our H2 titles and drag it underneath the subtitle. Update the text and set the alignment to left as well. Add a text module below that and place your About text or some dummy content in it. Now we'll add another group module underneath. This one will hold our call to action. Inside that group, add a text module and write your call to action message, setting it to an H3 title and aligning it to center. Then duplicate one of the buttons we used earlier in the Services section and drag it underneath. Set its alignment to center too. Let's switch to wireframe view for a quick check. Okay, looks like my button ended up outside the group. I'll drag it back in so everything is properly nested. Now we have a group for our main text content, and inside it, another group for the call to action. That structure will make styling much easier. Switching back to the Visual Builder, let's start styling. Open the call to action group settings. Set the background color to black, and under Layout, set the vertical gap to 10 pixels. Then, under Spacing, add 25 pixels of padding all around. Now, change the title color to white so it stands out. For the button, I'll increase the padding slightly, 8 pixels top and bottom, and 20 pixels left and right, just to give it a bit more breathing room. Next, open the main group settings and under Layout, set the vertical gap to 0 pixels. Now let's style the text. Set the font size to 16 pixels, the line height to 1.9, and the text color to a dark gray. Then add a bottom margin of 50 pixels to create some space before the call to action block. Alright, let's add our image next. Open the row, then the first column, and under Background, switch to the Background Image tab and upload the image from your media library. Then open the section settings and give it a light gray background color. Under Spacing, set the top and bottom padding to 0 pixels. Go back to the row settings, then open the second column and set the top and bottom padding to 100 pixels. Now open the group module that contains all our text and under Sizing, set the width to 85%. Switch to widescreen view and set it to 70%. For tablet view, set it to 95%. And for mobile, also center align the group. For mobile, we'll also reduce the padding. Open the row, then the second column, and change the top and bottom padding to 25 pixels. Then open the text module and reduce the font size to 14 pixels. Now, you might notice that our background image on the left looks quite small, and on the front end, it might not even be visible right now. That's because the background image in the first column scales according to the height of the second column, which contains all our text and spacing. For mobile, since the columns are stacked, the image area collapses. To fix that, we'll add a divider module in the first column. Under Visibility, disable Show Divider. We don't want to see the line. But under Spacing, set the top and bottom padding to 150 pixels. This keeps the space while keeping the divider invisible, so the image remains visible. Now the mobile view looks great. Let's check tablet view as well. I'll also set the text size to 14 pixels there. Everything looks consistent. Let's save and preview it on the front end. So, to recap, we set the group width to 70% for widescreen and ultra-wide screens, and 85% for regular desktops, 981 pixels to 1350 pixels. For tablet and mobile, it's 95%, so everything stays balanced and readable. That's why we wrapped the content inside a group module. It keeps our layout flexible and consistent across all devices. And that's it. Our homepage is finished. The next pages will be faster to build because now we can reuse many of these elements from our layout library. In the next video, we'll move on to the About Us page and start building that layout.